beginning of the film of Gage 2, we see a young Monica coming into her own and her identity as we see the struggles of being limited or being unable to live freely during like personal and family beliefs. So when I think about expressing emotions and overcoming obstacles, my mind immediately gravitates towards Aris. So for
Really?
those watching, right?
Really?
It's a compliment. So for those that were watching the movie and can relate to Monica, like, can you please give us the secret of overcoming being in a tough situation? And is it going to be forever feeling this way?
Oh wow. Okay. Damn, that's a loaded question. It's not, here's the thing. One of my favorite quotes that I live by is from Joan Rivers, and it doesn't get better, you get better. And so Black trans women have been at the, like, we are the leaders in this entire community, always have been. Don't believe me, look it up, you know? So we've always been resilient. We're always forced to be super strong. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I've been on live all week, all day and night on live, all week, talking to different organizations, talking to different celebrities, talking to different people, because we're so intersectional. We're women, speaking about feminism, we're trans, so we're speaking about queer issues in the time of Pride and what's going on right now. And then we're Black, so we're talking about Black Lives Matter. This, and so we have to be so well versed in all of this that we are not ever permitted to live a life of living in autopilot where we can just go day to day and not really notice our surroundings and, oh, wow, that's happening. No, bitch, we know about legislation. We know about who was murdered. We know about everything going on because it directly affects us no matter what's happening. We're always under attack. And so the way to get through it is to realize, ladies and gent brothers, you're not alone. You're not alone. We're all here. We want to support you. We love you. We're all doing everything we can, just being visible, just speaking out, because we're all at risk for speaking out. Like, don't ever take that lightly. I always think that, I'm like, I hope some Trump supporter didn't see that today and think they're gonna come after me, because I am easy to find. Okay.
And they
But
are easy to block. So yes,
no, so it doesn't, it doesn't get better. You're gonna get better, and you're not alone. You're not alone. When I realized I wasn't alone, I knew I could do this. Everything I've done, I realized I could do it because I saw, when I moved to Miami, it was just trans women everywhere. And I thought, oh my God, they make this look so easy. And it's not. It never got any easier. It's just, I got better. I was like, you know what? F y'all. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And you're never going to give me permission to do it. They're never going to give us a seat at the table to do it. So we're going to create our own seats and we're going to lead the marches always.
absolutely. Thank you for that. See,
Thank
that's
you.
why I always turn to you because you always have the answers, girl. Okay. I
Thank
love
you.
it. So also another moment for me watching this film is seeing Monica be denied housing and basically leaving her homeless. So now I filmed this and rewatching it, I didn't have the same effect. And then I watched it again and I was like, this may be deeper than discrimination. It probably could be a message of criminalization. Monica and like all of us up here on the panel are Black first. You know what I mean? That's a given fact.
Oh,
So I
yes.
want to turn it over to Hope as a proud Black woman. You're very like your Blackness is it reflects onto your Instagram, reflects in your spirit, it reflects in what you stand for. Can you give us a little bit more of an understanding on what it means when we say all Black Lives Matter?
I think that what we have to do is first define what it means to, define humanity, right? My Blackness is steeped in my humanity first. I'm a human being first, and I deserve to be treated as such. I deserve to be treated with the respect that you would give any human being. And I think that going deeper into my Blackness, and the reason that my Blackness is so important to me is because my Blackness is part of the reason that I am the woman that I am today. The cultural colloquialisms, the uprising, the upbringing, and the women that I was able to kind of sort of build and I guess kind of characterize myself after were all Black. They were all strong. They were all smart. They were all ambitious. And they didn't all come from the inside of my home either. I was able to see Black women and Black characters depicted in television shows, and that's why it was important to me. And it's always going to be important to me that people understand that I am a Black trans woman. I'm a Black woman. I live in the Black community. I'm speaking from my point, or my vantage point, coming from the Black experience. Because too often times, especially within our community, we've learned to kind of sort of adapt that white trans woman narrative that we are all victims and we're always going to be the victim no matter what. And I think that as Black people, we've kind of done away with that. Once we did away with the idea of being slaves and being enslaved to the system. And so I think never stepping away from that and always reminding people of that has been important to me. My Blackness is super important to me because my Blackness holds my culture. My Blackness is the reason that I go off in the ways that I do. My Blackness is the reason that people pay attention in the way that they do. And so I'm never going to negate that. But it also is one of those things that I use to call out my Black people for forgetting that I am that. You know, I think Black trans people don't need to be reminded that we're also Black, but Black people need to be reminded that we're more than trans. And so a lot of the things that are reflected on my Instagram come from a spirit of wanting to be intersectional with my conversation and wanting people who are on, you know, the LGBTQ side, who are white or people of color, to understand that you cannot forget that I am a Black trans woman, but then on the Black side, wanting them to understand that I am a trans woman who is Black. And so there's a bunch of different messages that need to be incorporated in one. And I think that what I do on my Instagram is I make sure that I talk to both audiences and I speak to both of them at the same time versus trying to break the messages up and have this whole separate conversation on different platforms or in different videos. I call everybody out at once. And as my sister here, Ashley, will tell you guys, I've learned to hold people and hold them at the same time. And I think that was one of the best pieces of advice that she could have given me, you know, just a couple of months back, was to be mindful of, you know, holding people, but then also holding them, you know, close. And so that's what I've been learning to do.
Amazing. That's why I always make sure I look to follow ladies like you and Blossom and Ashley, because I feel like you ladies have the answers. And even when I feel like I don't know, and it's like, oh, it's so much going on, I know that I can get some clarity between you ladies. And that's why I always make sure that, you know what, yes, I'm having a good day, but let me see what Hope's talking about, or let me see what Ashley's talking about. Because I know that they're gonna give me something and be like, okay, I didn't see it like that. I'm gonna take it how it is, and I'm gonna go on with the world with my new knowledge. So I always tell my friends is normalize your opinion when you're presented with new information. You know what I mean? So I thank you for that. And speaking of Blossom, now you've had a historic moment, honey. Like, we can't forget how you had to shake and uproot the people. And sometimes when you try to say it nicely, they just don't want to hear it. But sometimes you got to just make people listen. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people need to know that the fight doesn't end, you know, with Don Lemon. Like, can you share with us the importance of protecting our brothers and sisters?
You know, I have had so many powerful conversations this week about this alone, about my Blackness and about my transness. And I feel like I'm always having to explain both to so many different groups of people, but what really hurts is having to explain it to my own. Let me be very clear that without Black trans people, we have no Black movement. Without Black queer people, there is no Black movement. Without Black gay people, without Black lesbians, there is no Black movement. Without every sector of the Black community, there is no Black movement. And I honestly think that it has been hogged a little bit, especially from hetero cis folks that identify as Black. And for me, it's just, you know, even going back to that whole CNN town hall thing, the reason why I really did it was because Black trans people were being erased. How dare I sit in a space having access and not say anything? Because I would have been part of that problem. I would have been gatekeeping if I had not done anything. And so, you know, honestly, I feel like this has been really just a healing experience, being able to have this kind of conversation. And honestly, it's just really, really hurtful, because we got to get to the point where we have to stop policing each other's Blackness, number one. We got to get to the point, period, of where if you maybe mix with something and you're mixed with something and I identify as something, as long as you're Black, you're Black. You're in this fight. We're all in this fight together. Why am I going to police your Blackness? We got to get, I feel like we're just a little enslaved a little bit. And I just don't understand why that ideology has come about. You know, we're in the year of 2020. A lot of people don't know I'm into astrology and numerology, so let me hit you with this. We're in the year 2020. 2020 reduces to the number 4. 4 in numerology talks about foundations, hard work, and pragmatism. Ironically, in 2021, that number reduces to the number 5, which talks about challenge, change, and freedom. We are literally laying down the foundation for change now, as you can see. That is what this disruption is about. And of course, this disruption has come to our trans community, where a lot of our rights are being taken away from us at this point. You know, some of us within the Black trans community don't even feel like we're in the Black Lives Matter movement, which I honestly don't think that we were. Because honestly, I went out there 3 days in a row and I protested. Tony McDade was the Black trans man that was shot and killed by police. I went out there shouting his name. And do you think anybody else wanted to chant with me about Tony McDade? No, absolutely not. And then the thing is, this ideology, like again, I walked 4 miles from that protest home crying. I cried because it's just like, my Black trans community deserves so much better. My trans community deserves so much better. Let me tell y'all what I do right quick. I'm a tarot reader. For a lot of y'all that don't know this, a lot of people are finding this out. I'm a tarot reader. Let me tell you what I was doing for our trans community. For 3 hours, I would go into the secret groups that our trans community had, and I would give each and every one of them tarot readings. I did 12 tarot readings back to back for 3 hours because I believe enough in our community to build them up. Because again, the way society treats us, I gotta get my community ready for the world. And so I implemented life coaching skills to be able to build them up, build up their confidence, build up their power, to be able to fight what is in front of us. We have a fight that is in front of us, and we got to get ready for it. And so, you know, I'm bringing this stuff to light now because a lot of us are doing so many different things to help our community. And I just feel like we got to stop tearing each other down and stop thinking that, you know, me shining or you shining is a threat. Like, but you know, that it is what it is.
Thank you. Oh, I love to hear you speak. And you like, yes, and you feel that. You bodied it. You bodied it. Thank you so much. And sometimes, like, in my life, I get this sense of being like overwhelmed to the point I just kind of shut down. Does anybody else relate to that? Like, so earlier in my life, I was kind of coming into my own, and I made some choices, and it started to lead me through a path of destruction. And I turned away from God, and I turned away from believing in the universe, and what is meant for me is for me. And so watching Monica's story play out and the way the script was so parallel to my life, there was a sense of me like, okay, I can really devote my story into this. So, like I always say, whenever I have a down day or something, I want to make sure I turn to make sure I get some nuggets of inspiration. So I want to turn it to Reverend Ashley Marie Preston. And because you're very transparent about like your obstacles, and working with you on Dr. Phil, I got to experience like the beautiful glow in person. So the people watching stay jealous, you know what I mean? And like, would you mind sharing an experience or an obstacle in your life? And how did you find the light? And was it friends? Was it through art? Was it through God? Was it, you know, becoming a vegan? Like, what was it for you?
Well, just really quick, for those who don't know what that journey looks like, in a snapshot, came from Kentucky, got a job, transition, and I started being discriminated against and harassed on the job. No one spoke up for me. HR didn't take up for me, and it was much easier to fire me because I had become a liability. So then I ended up losing my job, losing my apartment, and being on the streets of Hollywood. The shelters wouldn't take me because the women's shelters were like, well, technically you're not a woman. And the men's shelters, I was so desperate that I was willing to repress my truth and my authentic identity just so I could have a place to sleep and food and basic necessities. And even they turned me away because, I mean, this is me without makeup, any kind of I'm a woman, like my essence, that's just who I am. And so I ended up having to engage in survival sex work to survive, and then ended up using methamphetamine as a social lubricant to help me navigate all of the gut wrenching, heart shattering things that many of us have to do in the name of survival. And, but the truth that I discovered in those moments was that I had been a subscriber to these respectability politics authored by people that have never respected trans people. They've never respected Black people. They've never respected women. And so I was confused because I did it right. I wasn't like y'all. Like I was a dare kid, and I know to just say no to drugs. And I was a believer in God. So like sex work, I don't, my body is a temple, and all of these things that I told myself, but when I had been put in the middle of it directly, it completely changed my view. And unlike, a lot of our loved ones who don't come through it unscathed and they don't make it out on the other side, I had came through it without a criminal record and without some of the other things that people have to navigate. And so I don't take that lightly. Those life experiences informed my purpose and the importance of why we need to speak up, especially people who are in media. We're talking about these issues that, if we're telling the truth, it doesn't even hit most of us directly. It's still hitting the girl that doesn't even have a cell phone, let alone internet, to even join this conversation. It's hitting the ones who are still out there in the middle of a pandemic who don't have a home to quarantine in. It's still hitting some of us who now may have to worry about being able to go to a hospital to get a COVID-19 test because the current administration has made it okay for them to be discriminated against and turned away. So I'm not trying to, like, yes, we love glam. Yes, we love beauty and all of the theatrics that come with, living big and authentic and unapologetic. But we have to remember that this is really not what this work is about. The work is really about reaching people at their point of need. And the truth is that if we're not talking about the Black trans women who are caught up in the throes of the prison industrial complex, we're not doing our job. If we're not talking about the sex workers who are not only put at harm by law enforcement, but the actual dates and people they're relying on for sustainability, we're not doing our job. If we're not talking about the trans women who are navigating mental health and who are, going through all of these different things, we have to decolonize our minds around the ways in which we look at these issues. And it's why I was one of the people who did speak up for Tony McDade, because people were trying to justify the fact that he had all these other things going on and he had said this and he did that. I don't care what he said. We need to stop criminalizing the individuals who are the victims of the system and start criminalizing the system that has consistently been intentional about destroying Black and trans lives. And so much of my work is doing just that, is shining light on that, because it could be me tomorrow. Respectability will not save us. It has never saved us. And we have to remember that we are all we have.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much.